are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the...
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State holds!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
9 seconds left. Eagles by 8. Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps on. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffa.
Well, we now know next year to broadcast during an NFL game because it apparently does not matter the way that we did it last week during the conference championships. We didn't get flagged for anything on YouTube, on Facebook, nothing. So it probably is because like 5 people watch the show, but that's okay. So you can watch the NFL games while we talk about them. Yeah. We could do our own commentary
on a severe delay, like as everybody.
Well, no, but I mean, you have to watch our show. You can't be watching the TV or anything else. You have to watch our show. But welcome to episode 271 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am Joe Mays, sitting next to me, my co-host Justin Raffoff.
Hi. And
we are going to be talking about the Super Bowl because, well, that's a week from today. Actually, we'll probably be around halftime-ish. Maybe starting third quarter, maybe?
I think we'll be in the third quarter, probably.
Next week.
Or, you know what, maybe halftime is forever, so.
Right, that's what I mean. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to be handled because the game starts at, it's like 6:37 or something like that. Yeah, it's odd. But as we know from last year, even though it starts at 6:30, don't expect it to be over by 10. Yeah. It's gonna push 10:30, 11 o'clock easy because of all the stops and all the glitz and glamour of every single thing that happens is done and broadcasted. So the actual kickoff is until like 6:38 or something like that, and then they take a commercial basically every time there's a stoppage. So are you looking forward to the commercials? Is that something that's still interesting? I feel like that peaked about 10 years ago and it kind of has dropped off.
I mean, I am to say I'm not interested in them would be not accurate. I'm certainly interested in the commercials. I wouldn't say I'm like looking forward or excited about the commercials. A couple of reasons. One, between TV shows and the internet, a lot of times you see a lot of them beforehand anyway. Yep. And I know that I'm going to see the ones that I like probably on the internet and on other shows afterwards. So I just feel like between a lot of that stuff. Now, there are some still that are great. I don't know. Sometimes I tend to end up liking some of the ones that aren't necessarily rated the favorites or something. Not all the time, but like I just think that sometimes I like some of them more than other people apparently. But to each their own, I guess.
Yeah, it is. I like to read like the recaps after the Super Bowl because obviously I have a lot of time afterwards the next day because I'm not ever celebrating a Super Bowl victory.
You're never looking up Dolphins Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. Like I just have a lot of time on my hands, so I read the commercial recaps, and a lot of times the ones that are like highlighted as being great, I was like, yeah, that didn't do it for me. Like that had no interest. Like it didn't do anything. Not that it was bad, but I was just like, yeah, okay,
right,
whatever.
Right, yeah. So I think like it's amazing how much less stressed I am this year about Super Bowl. Like, we kind of discussed it on the last show, and I'm sure we'll discuss it on this one. Who like I kind of am leaning towards, in terms of like preferring they win, but I don't really have a true rooting interest. And while I have a slight preference, I don't honestly care all that much because I can find joy in either team losing. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, I'm all in on the Rams. Like it's not even close.
So you're gonna push me. You're gonna push me on this, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's hard for me to fathom you rooting for the Patriots, but I'm sure you would say the same thing about me like 4 or 5 years ago, whenever that was.
Right.
That that wasn't so much pro New England as it was anti Seattle.
I feel like when I explain why, like people like you, but people like you are like, okay, you may not be like, oh, okay, you've changed my mind, but like you see what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying.
There are definitely some people though that I have explained it to that look at me like, wow, you've got a problem. Well, which is how that led us to.
Those are two different subjects.
This is why we sit here and we talk about sports.
Justin's problems in this hand and rooting for the Rams in this, they're not necessarily just one and the same.
Right, exactly.
They're it's many subtle layers.
Yeah. Are you telling me I care too much about sports?
I mean, I get what you've told me. I'm like, okay, I understand it, but I'm like, my response is, but it's the Patriots.
I know. See, and what's funny is, like, I feel like we had these exact conversations previously when it was you with the Patriots.
Yeah.
I'm like, but dude, it's the Patriots.
Like, yeah, I know. They're just
like Patriots Seahawks. I was like, dude, but it's the Patriots.
Maybe I was soft.
See, now I got lucky on that one. I was on the school bus for that one. So
that's right. Yeah, you were coming home, right? You were coming home.
Home from Jamaica.
Yeah, home from Jamaica. So, but. We are going to preview the game, which is pretty much just talk about the teams because I don't have many stats up in front of us or anything. I will look up the prop bets, though.
That this week.
I'll look up the prop bets because that's something fun that we've looked at the last few years.
We should go on the record with we should pick 5 and go on the record and see.
All right. Well, what we can do is I'll enter the prop bet we're going to pick in the comments, and then we'll write.
Yeah.
I'll reply to it with what we're going with. So we'll see. I know for a fact. Coin toss, if you've been paying attention to any of the things since last week's games, I'm definitely going heads. You see Matthew Slater always calls heads, and like in the biggest games of the Patriots, like they've won because he's called heads. They've gotten the ball first.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it was a post awesome. In the last day or so. So
I did. You know what? Yeah. I'll tell you what. Just going back to things. I did like Cam Jordan's T-shirt he had on today at the Pro Bowl.
I saw that.
Blow whistles, not games. That's funny. Yeah. I like. Don't get me wrong. Yes, there was a terrible call. Yes, they got. That is as close to a call that is going to change a game as you can get. However, at the same time. It's a week later, I feel like this is still dragging on, and it's going to drag on into Goodell's State of the League kind of address that he gives later this week. I don't know. That's not what we're going to talk about on this show, but I just feel like, man, they could have put this to bed if he just, not even, press conference, just puts out a release on Tuesday saying, it's unfortunate that it was missed. But missed calls, kind of happen and, blah, blah, blah. Just stepping up and owning it. Yes, it would have been a big deal for the next couple of days. It was really interesting because I did hear talk later in the week about how, there are these, weird, quirky rules where they could go. And they were never going to do that and all that stuff. But they're they would, major sports would never change the rules to, dictate. That's not true. Because you and I are fans of a team that still benefited. But the Phillies in 2008, right? Major League Baseball, so different sport. It was in the 6th inning that the Game 5 got postponed or got delayed. By Major League Baseball rules, that game, because it would revert back to the previous inning because it had gone past 4.5 with the home team winning, which would have been the 5th inning, the last complete inning. Phillies would have won, I believe, 2-1, and game would have been over. But Major League Baseball was not like, no, we're not going to end this on this. So they suspended the game for 2 days.
Yep.
And then picked up in the 6th inning. Like, that's not how that
the
works.
rules are written. But
right.
Did anyone complain about it?
Well, no, and everybody was happy, I should say, because, one, the Rays weren't going to complain that they get a chance, and two, Phillies don't want to win it.
You don't want to win because
right.
they called because of weather.
Right. So, like, it was, but it was just interesting to me because I'm like, it was clearly in the best interest, and Major League Baseball was just like, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, it's not
so,
often.
like, it's not unprecedented that a league steps in and says, we're going to do what's in the best interest. Now, you can have a completely separate argument that, like, living with whatever happened last Sunday is in the best interest. Like, that's, regardless of whether it was right or wrong, is still the best interest, because if you try and redo that, and football and baseball are completely different, and it was a series, not a, there were lots of factors that go into that, but it was just interesting because people were like, they would never change the rules in the middle of it, and I'm like, that's not completely accurate.
If something would have happened where they took an extra long time discussing it, and they ended up, like, somehow getting a relay that they were like, oh, you need to drop a flag.
Right.
I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I would not have been okay with them being like, we need the replay from this spot. Like,
no,
once the game happens,
yes.
the game happens.
And same thing. Like, to me, and to me, like, okay, if they would have, look, they there are articles out today about how, and they've been coming out as the week, 4 of the refs were from Southern, or have ties to Southern California.
I'm glad you brought that up.
But I did like, the headline, as with lots of headlines, are there. But, like, when you read the article, it says how the Saints have not even, they did not give credit to that. Like, they're not blaming that where these refs have ties to. Even the Saints, who have everything to lose by this, are saying, like, look, it was a missed call, but it's not that. You know what I mean? But now, if you had found that someone was, like, illegally involved with gambling or something like that, like, that's when I think that rule where the commissioner could step in, that could apply. But this is not that case. This is a missed call.
Right.
So, it's terrible and it's unfortunate, but
yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't get to read up any comments or follow-ups to those reports. I had seen a meme of that, like, literally the day after it happened. I think it was like lives in, all of it was like lives in Los Angeles for like 4 of them, and I was like, okay, that's funny to share around, but, like, is that even true? And then finally today it comes out, yeah, it actually is true. But, and I was like, oh, man, are people really going to get up in arms and think there's some conspiracy? Because you know that I hate, like, that kind of stuff. But
the truth. Okay, but yeah.
But what I was going to say is, it doesn't, to me, it makes no difference if they live there now. Did they grow up there? Do they give a crap about LA sports teams?
Like Ross Tucker, this was great. Ross Tucker was like, man, these guys really pulled one over on everybody. Living in LA 20 years ago, or living in LA, becoming officials 20 years ago, waiting for the Rams to leave and then come back, and then just for the chance that they might get to ref them in the NFC Championship game. Like, it was just, it's like, man, I like the long-time commitment,
I understand, and everyone's favorite word right now about everything is optics. I understand that the optics are bad to say 4 of the refs are from Los Angeles, but also, to me, like, so you lived in Pittsburgh for 4 years. If something happened, related to the Steelers or Penguins, and for somehow you were in there, you were a part of it, and they're like, well, he lives in Pittsburgh. Like you see how comical this is. Like, I would just be dying.
You would
laughing.
be like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, if it went against Pittsburgh, it's more likely to be this guy. So that's not, like, them living in Los Angeles right now is irrelevant to me. What I'd like to know is, where did they grow up?
I used to joke, if I, like, won, $1 billion and bought a team, which wouldn't even get you a team, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you had the chance, I wouldn't buy the Eagles. That would be too much stress to make them good. I'd buy the Steelers and make them bad.
Right.
Like,
well, right now they don't need much help with that because they're not trending in the right direction.
Or when I was in school, you could have bought the Penguins for like $20. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you got season tickets for that much. So.
Right. Exactly. And then they got good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's what happens. I mean, look at the Astros in baseball. When you get that many early round, or top of the first round, or top 2 in the first round,
when you're really bad for a long time,
it pays off.
Right. Or you're Cleveland, but
well,
Hey,
That
they're
happens,
working
too.
on it.
I mean,
they're working on it.
technically, a roster of Browns won a Super Bowl. It just was in Baltimore a few years later.
Hey, how about that report that came out this week? And I did not see all of it, but I saw parts of it. And then like 2 days later, I'm like, they had like a Cleveland reporter on, and they're just like, the crazy thing is, like, no one from the Browns organization has come out and been like, no, that's not true. Like, anything.
Oh,
nobody,
the Seth Wickersham
Nobody
article.
denied a single thing that was reported by Seth Wickersham.
Yeah, they were just like, yeah, that's true. It's all happening.
Yeah. Yeah, so, Cleveland. But no, I do think
Browns.
Cleveland's trending in the right direction. But
I do believe that's happening, but, you know.
But it's Cleveland, so if anybody could turn
if
the tide,
anyone can mess it up, it'll be them. But how about Saquon in the Pro Bowl today?
So I watched 0 of the Pro Bowl.
I just saw highlights, and he was on this one. I still don't quite know what was going on because Mike Evans had the interception.
Okay.
And they were basically doing just laterals, trying to score, and Saquon had it for the longest amount. It was just making people miss. Now, I know they're not, like, going 100% because they're not going to dive at people, you know. But they're still trying to tackle you, and he's just running all around. He had a great game. So did Mahomes. Jamal Adams from the Jets also was defensive MVP. He had a great game. But
I did see someone say you should get fired if you are an offensive coach and call a run in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in Orlando for the third straight year. It rained again. I'm hearing that they were going to possibly move it out of there from a report from the Orlando Sentinel. I'm sure the players would like it to be back in Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah, I know Hawaii's a hit for the players. Just speaking of the Pro Bowl, did you see the quote? Now, this is an old quote. It came from 2012, but I think it was like from like Brandon Spikes or someone like that. Said like that Brady came up to him like before the AFC Championship game that year and was like, listen, or it was like during the AFC Championship game. It was like, listen, you guys better get it together on your side. Brandon Spikes was linebacker,
but 4 years for the Pats.
Right, but they're like, get it together. We're not in this to play in Pro Bowls.
No, it was
like
it was when Pro Bowl voting was announced.
Oh, okay.
And he was, or maybe it was when they were assigning injury replacements. It was something like that. But like he was actually upset that he wasn't selected for the Pro Bowl. And Brady said exactly what you said. He came over and he's like, we don't play for the Pro Bowl. We got something bigger. And they went out and lost to the Giants a couple weeks later. So,
so best of both worlds.
It's a feel good story. It has a happy ending. So, so the actual Super Bowl, as we've kind of alluded to, but not ever maybe actually stated, is between the Patriots and the Rams. They were the number 2 seeds in the NFL playoffs in the AFC and NFC. Patriots upset the Chiefs, and the Rams upset the Saints by seeding. Both the home teams went down last weekend. We knew about the Rams before we started. We were watching the Patriots-Chiefs game for the majority of the show, and then after it concluded, the game went to overtime. New England won the toss and went right down the field and scored pretty easily. And here we are again.
Yeah.
Third straight Super Bowl featuring the Patriots.
It's crazy.
Had that epic comeback against the Falcons 2 years ago. Last year, we know they fell to the Eagles, and now this year they get the Rams. It's been a while since a team made 3 straight Super Bowls. I believe it was the Bills, probably.
Well, didn't the Patriots make 3 in a row in the 2000s?
No.
Oh,
they went 0-1, 0-3, 0-4. Yeah, they beat the Rams in 0-1. They went 9-7 in 0-2. Then in 0-3, they beat the Panthers. In 0-4, they beat the Eagles. And this is the season, not the Super Bowl year.
Right. I got you.
So yeah, they went to 3 out of 4. But I think the last team to make 3 was the Bills.
Yeah, I know the Redskins Giants kind of like flipped around in there a little bit with the Bills, but like as the opposing team. But
yeah, well,
I don't think any of them made it 3
It was
in a row.
Giants over Bills, Redskins over Bills, Cowboys over Bills, Cowboys over Bills. So there's only one NFC East team missing from that 4-year period.
Hey, but who? Well, I was gonna say who's the only one to win one since, which is not true. The Giants have 2 since. But
yeah,
all right. In the last year, who was
in the last 365
who is
days,
still the defending Super Bowl champions?
True, you can say that for another week.
Not so much emphasis on the defending anymore, but
so
we'll take it.
Yeah, Rams, Patriots. I don't think it's what most of the country wanted.
No, nation, like on some of the polls. So like I had seen like one of the ESPN polls had like, you know, which matchup are you most looking forward to, or like least, you know, Rams Patriots came in at 8%. This was going into last weekend. So I honestly feel like
was Saints Patriots the third?
So
like were the Patriots matchups both at the bottom?
I think they were.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I'm gonna be honest, like ratings will still be through the roof. I am
Super
not
Bowl,
trying to
like...
say there's a ratings like problem, but I do think it wouldn't surprise me if they're down a little bit, as in like 120 million instead of 130 million. You know, like I'm not talking like a problem. I'm not trying to say that.
Well, they'll still have articles written about it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But you know what?
Especially if the Patriots are winning, like not big, but like in control,
right?
You're going to see people stop.
But that's
watching.
one of those. That's one of those. Right, exactly. But that's one of those where that's so misleading. We've seen like the ratings this year were through the roof. Ratings for playoff games were really high. I didn't see them, but I'm sure the ratings last week were insanely high.
I believe the AFC game was a big one. NFC was down versus last year, I believe. I think AFC was up, NFC was down.
NFC last year, you had Vikings, Eagles, like two
teams that were starved for Super Bowl success.
Right, and not that the Saints and Rams aren't, but like in LA, they always talk about in LA, there's always something else you could be doing. Like it's probably 75 degrees and sunny, so you can go do whatever you want. Whereas like New Orleans, great, but not the biggest TV market.
But New Orleans is also a heck of a lot stronger football city than Los Angeles is.
No, absolutely. So, and the ratings were really good, but yeah, I saw that. But like the Eagles-Bears game, at the time, probably got beat by the AFC game last week. But like at the time was the most watched game since the most watched any TV program since the Super Bowl
last year.
Like, so it's one of those where like when people talk about like ratings for the NFL, I think they don't really realize how much more people pay attention to football. And like you can see that with the Pro Bowl. So like Pro Bowl today, you watch those ratings. People joke about how it's the worst All-Star game in all of sports. It
has higher ratings than
all the other sports finals.
Right, that's like playoff games, finals games. The Pro Bowl still have a higher rating, which is absurd. But it's the way it is. Football controls all, and that's fine with me. But yeah, if the NFL could have a nightmare scenario in terms of, you know, for next year's Super Bowl, like when they're trying to sell advertising, the advertisers are going to be like, well, your ratings were down.
Right.
You know, because that's with the matchup, because the better matchup probably would have been Chiefs-Saints, I think, is what people wanted. Now, does that mean they would have turned out and watched it? I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's not at all. This would have been the fourth selection for me.
Yeah, this was the dead last selection for me.
But I'm still
Chiefs-Saints won.
It's
Chiefs,
not like
Rams
I'm like,
2.
oh, what am I doing next Sunday night? You know, like I'm watching the Super Bowl. Like, so, but I don't think it may have a minor effect, but I think the bigger thing, like you mentioned, will be how the game's going. If it's a blowout, you're going to see the TV start to go off. But
yeah, so was the last like bad Super Bowl Seahawks-Broncos from like 5 years ago when the Seahawks destroyed them? Was that the last bad one?
Probably. I know Broncos-Panthers, like they kind of were ahead, but I don't think they like really pulled away.
Well, the Panthers started coming back because I remember getting worried because I wanted Manning to win and go out on top.
And remember how Cam Newton didn't dive on for the fumble and that became an issue thing. Like,
and I'm glad those minor things are past us and we don't not still talk about some of that stuff. So, but do you remember growing up watching? Now, what's the first Super Bowl you remember watching?
So, let me scroll back. Like, because I was
gonna say, no way you're remembering before this.
Yeah, I thought it was flipped the other way.
No.
So let's see.
I figured you're probably not much before.
I remember, like, I believe Giants Bills, if not, definitely Redskins Bills.
I remember Redskins Bills.
Like, I distinctly remember Redskins Bills.
Yeah, so do I.
I feel like I remember watching a Super Bowl before that, but don't really remember anything. I remember the Redskins Bills one though.
I know I don't.
Like
remember.
I know where I was. Like we went to friends of ours. We were at their house. Like all of that stuff.
So we used to watch the Super Bowl at my grandparents' house in West Lawn. I do not remember anything from Giants Bills. I'm sure I was at my grandparents' house for that. I was 6. I was the year I was turning 7.
Giant Bills. That Scotty Norwood.
Yeah, that's
So,
the
right.
wide. Yeah.
So I do remember that happening, but I don't remember. So I don't remember watching that play, but I remember that the Bills lost and stuff. I remember watching the Redskins Bills.
I have no memory of Giants Bills at all. I vividly remember watching Redskins Bills at my grandparents' house in the basement. I remember my cousin had a Ripon jersey on. I don't know why, because he was at the time a Dolphins fan. He's the one that turned me on to Marino and the Dolphins, and he was wearing a Washington Redskins Ripon jersey, and I remember watching that game. And then everyone since, I have lots of memories from all of them. But when we were growing up, the whole point of this conversation was to say, when we were growing up, the games were crap.
Right.
Like, they were not good games.
The last one, so honestly, like, I remember some of those Cowboys ones, but, like, the first one I remember, like, distinctly the game. Like, the entire game is Cowboys-Steelers. Like, I remember, like, details of that game. I was so mad at Neil O'Donnell because he was playing like poop, and the Cowboys were
one of the few times you were interested in the Steelers winning the Super Bowl.
Right. Oh my gosh, I was rooting for the Steelers so bad in that game.
Yeah. So,
and then I rooted. Like, I can tell you, I would have been rooting for the Niners. I would have been rooting for I was rooting for the Steelers. I was rooting really, really hard for the Packers.
Well, let's go through this here.
Okay.
So, Redskins Bills is the first one that we remember actually watching, both of us.
Yeah.
That game, even though it was only a 13-point difference, Redskins were in control for most of that game. Next year, obviously, Dallas destroyed Buffalo. Same thing the year after, not as bad, but still beat them up pretty good. 49ers were all over the Chargers. Cowboys-Steelers was like not... It was within 10 points, but Dallas seemed like they were in control most of the game. Like, it never really seemed out of reach for them. Same thing with Green Bay against New England. That one was never, in jeopardy for them. Packers tried to make it interesting against the Broncos, but Elway was able to survive with that. I was happy for him in that one as well. I was rooting for the Broncos and Elway. So that was the first one I was like, oh, this is at least it was kind of an entertaining game because I think Elway had to pick up a first down to seal it.
Yeah.
So, that one was close. But I believe Denver was up by 2 scores and Green Bay cut it.
I think so.
It's not like Denver scored to break a tie. They had to preserve the win. But good enough. And then they beat up on the Falcons a bit the next year.
I was rooting for the Broncos again because I wanted the Vikings to make it that year.
That was when they went 15-1, right?
Yeah,
in the regular season.
And Randall Cunningham was the quarterback.
Yeah. I actually did root for the Falcons that year just because I was like, Elway just got one. But it didn't really matter,
Yeah.
Then we got to a really exciting game.
Yes.
The last time. Well, I shouldn't say the last time. The first time the Rams were in a long time.
I was rooting for the Rams in that one.
I think I was rooting for the Titans. Some of these are going to be fuzzy as we go through. Rooting interest because
the next one I know.
I feel like I want to root for AFC teams to assert our dominance, but there's also some AFC teams that I just don't like.
Right? No, I understand. Yeah.
And it changes through the years too. Like,
absolutely.
There'll be a time when I like this team and then I hate them.
Right.
So, but then we actually got a string of some pretty decent games. Now, unfortunately, Ravens Giants wasn't close, but Patriots Rams was a fun game. Buccaneers Raiders not so much, but then Patriots Panthers great game, Patriots Eagles great game, Steelers Seahawks is closer than the score dictates. That one came down to the wire. Colts Bears meh, but Giants Patriots great. Steelers Cardinals I just watched the recap of that one today, great. Saints Colts despite the 14-point difference that was a fun game.
There was a long stretch where I was
Packers Steelers
doing
fun.
Well in terms of my rooting interest.
Giants Pats fun, Ravens 49ers fun. Then we got that blowout. So it was like there were a lot of close and fun games in there before we got a blowout.
So when we look, like...
You want to do the rooting interest? Is that what you want to do?
We don't have to do all of them, but like... So... Like, I was rooting for the Redskins over the Bills because I had a Redskins football when I was a little kid.
Okay.
From the time my parents lived in Washington. In the Wayback Machine, I think friends of theirs had given it to them, and I just would play with it when I was a kid. I was rooting for the Bills the 2 times they lost. I would have rooted for the Niners. I rooted for the Steelers. Then I rooted for the Packers, the Broncos both times. I rooted for the Rams and the Ravens.
Are you keeping track of this?
No, I'm not. But the Ravens, this is where it goes bad, right? So I was rooting for the Rams the next year. I was rooting for the Raiders the year after that, because that was the year the Eagles.
Wait, who are you rooting for in Ravens?
Oh,
Giants?
Ravens, hardcore Ravens. Yeah,
that's for your mom.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I wasn't rooting for the Giants, but I rooted for the Rams. They lost to the Patriots. I was rooting for the Raiders because that's the year the Eagles should have won the Super Bowl. Like that's the year it should have been. And then I was rooting for the Panthers against the Patriots. I was rooting obviously for the Eagles. I was rooting for the Seahawks. I did root for the Colts over the Bears. And I feel bad because John Gilmore was on that Bears team, but I wanted Peyton to get one so bad.
When I go through this, you'll be able to see my allegiances flip-flop.
Right. So then I was actually rooting for the Giants because I didn't want the Patriots to go 19-0 in 2008 the 2007 season, 2008. And then, so there was a long stretch there where it was not very good. The teams I was rooting for did not do very well. But, once after that, well, actually, no, because then it kept going. So after the Colts and the Giants, so there's kind of back.
Now, were you rooting for the Giants?
I wanted the Giants to win because I didn't want the Patriots to get the undefeated season. That's back when there was still a debate, too, between Peyton and Tom Brady, or at least a different debate.
Yeah.
I was rooting for the Cardinals
hardcore
against the Steelers. That one, I'm glad Jamie didn't break up with me because I was not pleasant to be around when the Cardinals lost that one. Again, the Eagles should have been in that one, but I'm glad they weren't because Steelers-Eagles Super Bowl is now
was Cardinals-Eagles the NFC Championship game? Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And that is my nightmare scenario now.
Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Super Bowl.
Yes. I was rooting for the Colts over the Saints. Even though I was happy Drew Brees won, I wanted the Colts to win because of Peyton. Packers were good. Giants, Patriots the second time, I honestly don't know. I kind of wanted the Giants to win, but it was kind of like this Super Bowl where, I really wanted both teams to lose. I was rooting for the Ravens over the Niners. I was rooting for the Broncos over Seahawks. I was rooting for the Seahawks over the Pats. And then Broncos, I wanted the Falcons. They pooped the bed. And then, obviously, last year,
you wanted the Patriots,
the greatest of all time, the Philadelphia Eagles.
So
Super Bowl 52. That should be the last Super Bowl because it was the best.
That's the only one that matters, right? So actually, I started out really strong because I know how much I hated the Bills when I was growing up that I was so happy to revel in their misery of 4 straight losses. Now, remember, I don't remember the Giants-Bills game.
Right.
The first full football season I remember was the 1993 football season. So that's actually down here.
Right.
That's the second Cowboys-Bills season. But I remember watching Redskins-Bills and Cowboys-Bills. But knowing much about football and my love for the Dolphins didn't really kick in until the 93 season. So, but I knew I didn't like the Bills as a Dolphins fan. So I was rooting for the ones that I can remember: Redskins over Bills, Cowboys over Bills, Cowboys over Bills. Which, I mean, that helps that my dad's a fan of theirs. So, and I was absolutely 100% on the 49ers because the Chargers ripped out my heart. Actually, the Dolphins choking ripped out my heart, but it was to the Chargers, so I could never forgive them for that. That one still bothers me to this day.
Yeah, so growing up, most of the time,
Dan Humphries.
Most of the time growing up, Baltimore didn't have a team. So my mom's team was the Dolphins because she liked the Cowboys, but let me rephrase that. She liked Tom Landry and what Jerry Jones did with Tom Landry.
Cast him aside.
Right. That she vowed to never root for the Cowboys again, and she liked the Dolphins because of Don Shula, who had ties to the Colts,
to the Baltimore Colts.
Right. So there was all of those things. So I liked the Dolphins growing up, but then my uncle moved to Buffalo, and so I would kind of root for the Bills.
No. So the this is when people like that 94 season, the 95 playoffs is when people were starting to wonder like how much longer Marino was going to play. Now he played 5 more years, but this is when he had been having the knee issues. Like he had those in, was it 93
or
was
what,
it
like 11 seasons already in.
Well, yeah, because his first year was the 84 season,
Right.
so now we're in 95, and this is 20 plus years ago. We're wondering how much more Marino had in him, and the Dolphins were up like 21-3 or something like that at halftime.
I remember
24-3,
that
and I was
the
just
Dolphins
like,
to win that
I was
game.
just like, oh man, here we go. They're going to the AFC Championship game. That's I was like, oh, they're going to the AFC Championship game, and they blew it. And now, obviously the offense didn't score many more points. The defense couldn't stop anyone, and then Pete Stoyanovich couldn't kick a field goal. That one was devastating, but making it matters worse was the Super Bowl was in Miami that year, so they could have been, and still no one has done it. Been hosting, they're
Where's the Super Bowl next year?
Miami,
Wow. So okay, what about the year after that?
Tampa,
Okay, and after that,
Los Angeles.
ooh, that might be your shot. But their window, this
See,
is a free
so
agent
much changes
laden
that
team.
so much changes.
No,
that
I know.
This just means that it's Miami's year next year, baby.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But I started out with my rooting interests. I was 1, 2, 3, 4. I rooted for Cowboys over Steelers again for my
I
dad.
hate you.
So because at the time of my naivety, I actually rooted for the Patriots because I had family up there. Why not?
No.
And back then it was
They were the lovable
Back then it was the
losers.
poor Patriots, and I was like, oh, it's fun. It's a Patriots.
You were young
Yeah,
and
sure.
foolish. It's okay.
Yeah, so I rooted for the Patriots over the Packers. Didn't get that one. I
There
did
was-
root for Denver.
There was one kid in my elementary class who was a huge Drew Bledsoe fan and wore a Drew
really?
Bledsoe jersey all the time. And that is why I rooted for Brett Favre and the Packers, baby. And yet it's funny how we were in the class, but we weren't super close. That kid went on to be one of my best friends in Columbia.
Well, hey, there you go. I rooted for Broncos over Packers. I did root for Falcons the next year. I'm pretty sure I was Titans over Rams in 2000. I definitely was Giants over Ravens because I wanted to see Kerry Collins win. And
Yeah, see, so that's part of that was, I think if that would have happened
Later.
longer after I was here, but we
Right.
lived here 6 months,
Right, yeah, that's
so.
yeah.
I was like, all right.
I was at that game in
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
I saw that. We stayed even though it was the Ravens just dominating the entire time.
You gotta stay.
We stayed and watched everything. It was great. We have pictures and the program and our tickets and the
Yeah, that's
memorabilia. It was super cool. It was, I sat with Todd, and my dad and Terry sat together, and we were in the one end zone, and I had Kerry Collins jersey on. We were cheering hardcore, and it didn't go great for the Giants, but it happened.
That Ravens defense was also one of the best defenses of all time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're
Like-
right. You're absolutely right. And the return game, they couldn't stop anyone on special teams. Well, the Giants scored to make it maybe not be a route. They returned the next kickoff for a touchdown.
Right,
Like,
right.
Was
That
it
Baltimore team-
Jermaine Lewis? I think.
Yeah.
And Jamal Lewis was the running back.
Yeah.
Ray Lewis, the Lewis brothers.
Man, your favorites.
So my dad goes, "Yeah, you have the best dad."
I was going to say, your dad probably loves this show, us talking about, ancient history in NFL football. That's what
Oh,
Cowboys
boy.
fans love to talk
We're
about.
gonna get another text. So, or where were we here? Patriots Rams is an interesting one. I want to say I was rooting for the Patriots still at this time because when they hadn't won, I was definitely rooting for the Patriots then. That's Vinatieri magic right there. I was definitely
It's also
rooting.
Spygate right there.
I was definitely 100% rooting for the Buccaneers because I was a huge John Lynch and Mike Allstott fan.
I get that.
And I hated the Raiders growing up because
I
they were one of
understand
the
that.
teams that obliterated Miami's playoff hopes with Marino, humiliated them.
Right.
Miami lost in back-to-back years to get kicked out of the playoffs 120-7 or something like that in their playoff losses in the late 90s. And I just I never really liked the Raiders. So I was not on board with the Raiders in that one, so I was glad to see the Buccaneers destroy them.
Yeah, see, that was purely because Tampa beat the Eagles, and that should have been.
All right, so the text from my dad I can't repeat Yeah, so we're not even going to address that. Now, the next two Patriots ones are interesting because the Panthers one, I was actually rooting for the Panthers. I remember watching that one freshman year of college down in Adam's dorm. Adam and Chris Hartman, we were hanging out, watched that game together, and cheering for the Panthers. Didn't come through. The next year, this was during my I hate the Eagles phase, I was rooting for the Patriots. I was rooting for the Patriots in this one too. Steelers-Seahawks, I was for the Steelers.
Oh my gosh, I was for the Seahawks so bad. I'll never forget that one. Never.
It was fun. Kelly and I had been dating for about a year, and we watched. We had watched the Patriots-Eagles Super Bowl together too. And one of her best friends in college, Jenny, is a huge Eagles fan, and
this is one of those
tough
where,
to watch.
If it wasn't for like my experiences as a non-Steelers fan in Pittsburgh, I would have rooted for the Steelers. I went to Pittsburgh as it's the Steelers.
Right, it doesn't matter.
Right. And that was quickly beaten out of
changed.
me, and all of a sudden, nope, I'll root for it.
So were you like, oh, this is why Joey's always so angry?
It did give me an appreciation, yes.
Where were we here? Quick wrap this up
Steelers,
here.
Seahawks.
Seahawks, yeah, I was for the Steelers. Colts, Bears, I was absolutely for the Bears because this was my I don't like Peyton Manning
I watched
phase,
that one at your parents' house, and pretty much everyone was for the Bears. I was in my Peyton Manning jersey.
Also in Miami. But yeah, I was all for the Bears because, well, one, that was my anti-Peyton Manning days.
No. I get that.
Bears, John Gilmore was on the Bears. I wanted to see John win the Super Bowl. So I was all about the Bears. Giants, Patriots the next year, all aboard on the Giants train. Steelers, Cardinals, Steelers, although I wouldn't have minded the Cardinals, but I still wanted the Steelers. Saints, Colts, this is where I start to get a little fuzzy because at some point, I jumped on the Manning bandwagon, right. Completely.
So
but I don't
remember around
remember
that time because this is full blown like Brady, Manning, and I feel like the Brady ness had started to hit full stride at that point.
Yeah, and I can't recall who I was rooting for in that Saints Colts game. Something tells me that it was the Colts because I feel like I was disappointed when they lost. But I remember being focused, and Kelly actually pointed this out to me today because I was watching the 30-minute Super Bowl recaps that they were playing on NFL Network, and this one was on, and Kelly was like, wasn't that the Super Bowl where you just kept saying, it's coming, relating to the snowstorm we were about to get? Because we got hammered with snow. And I just kept, because people kept asking me, I was like, when's it going to get here? When's it going to get here? Because we were worried in the beginning of the week, like, were we going to get to have a Super Bowl party? Because we were going to get hit with snow. And we got hit with snow, I think, like, either that night into Monday or Monday into Tuesday. We got a significant snowstorm. But that was that game. And now I don't remember who I was rooting for. Packers, Steelers, I was Steelers. Giants, Patriots, I was Giants. Ravens, 49ers, I was 100% 49ers. So I was disappointed with that one.
Packers, Steelers, I distinctly remember sitting at your parents' house in that room, like off the kitchen, and not cheering at all. And you just would keep looking at me, and I'd be not cheering. And my wife, who was a diehard Steelers fan, was like, I know you're happy. And I'm like, yes, I am. So stop calling me out on it.
I just was like, oh, this is getting awkward.
We weren't married yet at that point. So
I guess we're lucky that did happen.
Yeah, those... For better or worse, she loves me. So.
Giants, Patriots again. Giants. Oh, no, I already said that. Ravens, 49ers. Seahawks, Broncos. All about Broncos. Wanted Peyton Manning to get that one. Yeah. And I just do not like Pete Carroll.
So, as much as I was rooting against the Seahawks in the 2014 Super Bowl, I was rooting for the Seahawks in the 2015 Super Bowl.
And I was the exact opposite. I was all about Denver in 2014. And I actually rooted for the Patriots in 2015 Super Bowl.
That's so recent.
But
There's
then,
no excusing
and I rooted for Denver then in 2016, even though I wouldn't have minded seeing Carolina because it's the Panthers. I wanted Manning to win, and he did.
He won and got to go out on top.
Then Patriots, Falcons, 100% Atlanta. And that one was looking pretty good.
They could have just run the ball
for a while. And then last year I was rooting for the Eagles. So it's interesting that we get Super Bowl rematches 2 years in a row, not
not
historical
the exact
rematches.
ones.
Historical rematches.
Well, that kind of happens when the Patriots make it pretty much 2
right,
out of every
there's
3
a
years.
rotation of
Well, actually, I
teams.
guess when they make it 3 out of every 4,
So that just means next year, like the Seahawks or Panthers or Packers, one of those 3 teams has to be in,
There
right?
you go.
So we'll see.
There you go.
I mean, or maybe we could see a redux with Atlanta. Throw a bone there. I know you'd like to see an Eagles.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's
Eagles
just like
rematch
let's
stuff.
do snake
Well,
draft here, and we'll go back.
I'm trying to be like these could actually happen. So.
Right, like we said. So the home team is not going to. The host team is not going to win the Super Bowl next year.
Hey, who knows? Who knows?
Hey, let's be honest. At this point, if that meant, obviously, it would mean the Patriots aren't in the Super Bowl.
Hey,
so it would be a
I
minor
think we
victory
would
for all of us.
We would all take that,
Yes.
right? We would all
Yes.
take that.
If you're telling me that, like, listen, the Eagles won't win it, but it won't be the Patriots either, at some or like the Cowboys or Giants or whatever.
Right.
You know what? I'm kind of I am on board with a Dolphins Super Bowl like that.
I would hope so.
Yeah, as long as they're not playing the Eagles. But Dolphins against pretty much anyone in the NFC, I'm rooting for the Dolphins. Like, I can't imagine who I would.
Wait, I was gonna say, who would the Dolphins be playing that you'd be rooting for the NFC team?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't imagine. So okay, I'll
Well,
tell
go
you
ahead.
off the air. No, I don't want to say it on the air. It's a scenario
Okay.
that would.
All right, well, let's
Yeah.
quick do these prop bets because we
Yeah.
went long on Super Bowl history and
Oh,
we didn't
man.
preview the game at all, which is fine because no one wants to
This
watch
one you
this
got-
game. No one wants to
right,
watch
the one you
Patriots
got
Rams.
pulled up is the best.
Yeah, so we're just gonna go. I posted this on the Facebook page for those of you watching live. If you want to, we're just gonna do like the first 5. I don't even know what 3, 4, and 5 are, but the first 2 are up and they're hilarious.
Yes.
So, will Nickel Roby Coleman get called for pass interference during the game?
On the first play.
Can you imagine the first Saints defensive play doesn't matter, or excuse me, Rams.
Yeah.
Ooh, rubbing salt in the wound. The first Rams defensive play, they just throw the flag. They're like, "This is for 2 weeks ago." Could you imagine? Oh my gosh. So
I am betting the yes.
you're saying he does?
100%.
So they're going to be gunning for him. They're going to be like, you're going to pay extra attention to him.
Yes.
So, okay. So we're going to say Rams NRC called for PI. And where did that go? Oh, I can't reply to it? Oh, yeah, there I can. Okay. So, Justin and Joey say yes. So we can revisit that. All right. So the second one, well, let's see where this is from ArizonaSports.com. They say, of course, we can't talk about this year's Super Bowl without discussing the controversial play in the NFC Championship game that helped the Rams make it this far. Nickel Roby Coleman. Am I saying his name right? Is that Nickel Roby Coleman?
It's Nikel.
Nikel? Okay. Infamous pass interference helmet-to-helmet hit that wasn't called has been the talk of football for the past week, and now you can bet on whether or not Roby Coleman will actually be flagged for pass interference during the Super Bowl. The odds currently lean toward no, but after last weekend, you can never be sure. That'd be an interesting bet to place. That could be a little fun, a little jokey, especially if you're a Saints fan.
Right.
All right. Will Romo Stradamus be said during live broadcast? Former Cowboys quarterback turned CBS color commentator Tony Romo has earned himself quite a reputation during his short career in the booth. Romo has had tons of praise heaped onto him for his work as a broadcaster during the playoffs this year, which includes his uncanny ability to guess plays correctly before they even start. This has even led to some people on social media giving Romo the nickname Romo Stradamus, which of course means you can place a wager on whether or not this new moniker will be mentioned on the live TV broadcast.
Okay, so I'm going to let you go first on this.
You're going to let me go first on this one? Because I haven't heard it mentioned that much, I don't know if it's caught on as much, so I'm going to say no.
They might allude to the skill, but they won't allude
explicitly
to that
say
name.
Romo
Right.
Stradamus. Right.
And here's the other thing with this. Like, there were all kinds of jokes and memes about this week. One, like, Romo got the Kansas City Chiefs defensive coordinator fired. Not actually, obviously, but, like, he's like, if Romo could figure it out, why couldn't he? And, like, my favorite is the meme, though, of, like, Tony Romo being like, maybe I should have used this skill, like, when I was playing. Like,
Yeah, right. Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, he is a great commentator. It's fun to
he
listen
is
to
great.
him. I'm glad he's calling the Super Bowl.
Oh, me too. I'm excited.
But it didn't help him as a player. Now, he was a good quarterback. At times, he was a great quarterback. You know, and he was crazy underrated in Philadelphia because the Eagles always rip on the Cowboys quarterback.
Right.
But he never got the Cowboys over the top. But I think a lot of Cowboys fans would say they prefer Romo over Dak.
I think so too.
So
But here's the thing, like, and this gets into a whole Cowboys discussion. I feel like he's a victim of Jason Garrett, man.
Right.
Like, because they never ran the ball with Tony, and that's why he was always banged up. Not always, but that's why you get banged up.
Did you see the article about how Jason Garrett doesn't have a coaching tree in the NFL?
I didn't.
He doesn't
that's
have.
An amazing.
Any coaches taken from his staff,
our coordinators,
haven't been head coaches. He has no coaching tree. No one has succeeded, and they say, is it because he's not surrounding himself with the right guys, or is it because his system isn't innovative enough that no one wants any of the guys?
Both. It's both. I don't think he has a lot of say over who he brings in on his staff.
That's
I think that's part of it too. So like, you could say he/Jerry Jones don't have a coaching tree, but
all right. So that was the first two. Let's see what three is. Will Belichick and McVay age gap be mentioned during the game broadcast?
Like that's
oh
the
my
easiest
God, yes.
money.
That is absolutely a yes. In some way, that'll be mentioned.
You're stealing money at that.
And ArizonaSports.com or 98.7 FM in Arizona.
Well, yeah, I think that's...
Yeah.
I think it's favored that it will be.
They say, you may or may not have heard this ever since he was hired in early 2017, but Rams head coach Sean McVay is very young. In fact, at 33 years old, he's younger than Justin and I. He will be the youngest head coach to ever coach in a Super Bowl once the big game kicks off next Sunday.
He also played against Julian Edelman in college.
Right. Patriots head coach Bill Belichick, on the other hand, is the second oldest coach in the entire league, and he is McVay's senior by almost 34 years.
Is Pete Carroll the oldest?
I think so. It's a pretty safe bet that this fact will be mentioned at least once during the game. So, that's a definite. We'll put it up there, but Justin and I are both yes. How crazy is it? McVay was in Washington, right?
Yeah.
Man, don't they wish they could have him back?
Jeez. Yeah, talk about another one, like, man.
How about Alex Smith probably not being back next year?
Dude, not a surprise. He was at an NBA game this week, and you could see his leg was in one of those things where it looked like he has the screws, like, from the outside going in. Like, which, absolutely.
So they could be in the market for a quarterback, which does not help Miami. All right, so number 4. What color will the liquid be that is poured on the game-winning coach? I like that they don't call it Gatorade in the question, because I guess they don't want to get into the specifics if it's Powerade or any of that kind of stuff. So what color will the liquid be that is poured on the game-winning coach? Clear or water leads, but you can also choose yellow, blue, orange, red, green/lime, or purple.
I'm going with purple. I think purple is a really good Gatorade, and I think it is going to make it.
So, wow, I can't spell color apparently. Oh, good, spell check can't spell it either.
You weren't even close enough to get it.
Yeah,
I
missed one letter.
But it's a big one.
The first O gets you every time. For some reason, so it's Patriots Rams.
Right. So that's why I'm going purple.
You're going purple.
Yep.
I'm gonna go the green lime. I'm gonna go green/lime. That's like the default one, isn't it?
Right. But yeah, who knows? Because maybe some of Tom Brady's melted avocado ice cream is going to be in there, and that would be green, right?
Is the one that they were making a joke about? He can eat one extra almond now because is that?
I saw a thing this week that was like, it was a meme that it was like Belichick like on the phone, and on the other side it was Donald Trump, and it goes, "Hey Don, Tom and I don't eat fast food," and it's Trump going, "Government's back open."
Oh my gosh. God, some people have so much time.
Right, like there are memes that are hilarious. What was the one I sent you? It wasn't it was like the Ghostbusters slime one.
Oh, yeah.
We were just like, it took someone a long time to get all those screen grabs.
Man, there's just some people that have way too much time on their hand. So, all right. So I'm going green lime. You went purple. Right. So the last one is going to be. Oh, there's only 5 in the article. So,
Yeah. Well, we don't have to do the next one. we can go.
Let's see if any of the other sites have one good one.
We could do heads tails.
Oh yeah, let's do that because I said I wanted to do that. Yeah. So, all right.
You said heads. I'm going to say tails.
Okay. And this is the initial first coin toss, not overtime if that would happen.
Right. So, by the way, this is how I would usually do it. If I were on the Patriots or for the Patriots, I would say heads because our helmet has a head on it.
That's
If
how you roll.
If I was on the Rams, I would also do heads because the horns are clearly part of the head. So that's how I would do it.
So there's a Friends joke in here about they have to determine something and they're going to flip a coin, and they're like, I think they relate it to the chick and the duck.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like,
yes,
no, something about clowns. It was clowns and an animal. And he was like, all right, we'll be heads because ducks have heads. And he's like, what kind of scary clowns came to your party? So, yeah. Okay. So, we're going heads or tails. And you're saying...
I say tails.
You're saying tails.
Even though I just explained to you why I would take heads.
Well, that's because I already told you I was taking heads.
Right, so I got to be different on one, and this is one where I at least have a 50-50 shot of.
Yeah, because the Gatorade one, we could both be wrong.
Right.
Yeah. So, those are just a few prop bets. I thought those were funny and interesting. And there's always a bunch more. Like, they'll do time on the national anthem and, all kinds of stuff. But the Rostradamus one is interesting to me because at first I was like, well, there's no way Romo's going to say it, though. But then, like...
I hope he does. How funny would that be?
Like, man, but he won't say it alluding to himself. He'd be like, yeah, the term...
Yeah, but, like,
imagine
imagine if
media.
you were, like, one of the producers, like, who's in the ears of these guys all the time, and you just, like... You just read these just to mess with people. Not that you have money on it. Like, I don't want to suggest that somebody's, like, doing improper, like, betting here. But, like, that you would just be like... Imagine who is Nance, the other guy? Is Jim Nance the other guy?
Yes.
So imagine if you're in Nance's ear the whole time. Romo Shadamas, Romo Shadamas, Romo Shadamas. Like, just until he says it, and, like... Or be like, man, I like McVay and Belichick are really different in ages. Like, just, like, saying things like that, so...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe they have a rule you can't bet on a game you're producing.
Yeah, I imagine that would be frowned upon.
But what would prevent you from doing it? Like,
you mean it's actually against the rules, not just frowned
not
upon?
just frowned upon? Oh, yes. Well, amazingly, it is 9:30, so we should probably wrap it up. But
we already talked about, I think, who we
obviously
want to win. Who do you think wins? Who do you think wins? I'll go first if you want me to.
I obviously want the Rams, but I will let you go first.
Okay.
So.
I want the Patriots. I think the Patriots win.
All right.
I learned my lesson against the Chargers. I am not thinking the Patriots lose until I see it.
I have not yet
Even though
decided.
my team beat them last year, like, I still can't really believe that happened, and I'm not going to... You would have told me last year that Brady could throw for 400-plus yards in a Super Bowl and lose, and I would have thought the Eagles could win. I think the Patriots win this year.
I think, and I haven't decided who I'm picking in the playoff pool yet, but I want the Rams to win. And I was going to say the Rams win. I know there's just something that maybe I'm just so hopeful.
I mean, there's a good chance because I'm rooting against them. So.
I think the biggest thing is, can the Rams get Gurley going? If the Rams can't get Gurley going, I think they're in trouble, even with C.J. Anderson playing the way he has, because I think the Patriots are going to really get in Goff's face and kind of throw him off his game.
I think, right, and I don't know that the Rams defense outside of Aaron Donald is good enough.
Well, it comes down to the Rams getting in Brady's face, because we saw that's what the Giants were able to do to him, and then the Eagles had pivotal moments last year.
Yeah, only at pivotal moments, but the biggest moments.
Right,
so.
It's all about disrupting Brady and getting Gurley going.
It's about making plays at big times. Like, and that's what the Eagles were able to do last year. They didn't play better than the Patriots the entire game, but when in virtually every pivotal moment, the Eagles came up big last year. Like every pivotal moment, they came up big. So, can the Rams match that this year? It's hard to do that against the Patriots. I have a hard time imagining it happens to them back-to-back years in the Super Bowl.
No, I agree, and everything is saying you got to make the Patriots. After in the middle of the year, you thought the dynasty was over,
and we sat here and were like, "It's not. It's not." We've seen this movie.
Times crossword puzzles.
Goodness, that was loud.
That was
really loud. Oh wow. Sorry about that. That popped up, and I was not ready for that. Man, that was super loud. Excellent. So, but yeah.
What?
What? I can't hear you. So Rams Patriots next Sunday. We obviously won't have a show during that. We'll have a recap and a little fun anniversary show the week after. Any shout outs for you? Anything to mention?
No, not really.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm sure there'll be something that happens that I've forgotten. But actually, happy birthday to my cousin's daughter Peyton, celebrating today. Unfortunately, part of the New England gang, so we know where her allegiances probably lie, so it's disappointing. But happy birthday to her anyway. And we do miss her and her family and the extended Massachusetts family, even if we don't agree on the football team. So,
hey, Rich and I are on the same side next week. Kind of. I think he'll be a little more enthusiastic about it.
Probably a little bit. So that wraps up episode 271 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. We'll be back in 2 weeks to recap the Super Bowl and celebrate 8 years of the show. For Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.